speaker is Dr. Leslie Sotomayor, and she is going to speak to us about Gloria Anzaldua.
Okay, I would like to introduce you to Gloria Anzaldua. I met her well over a decade in my first Women's Studies Introduction course about 15 years ago, and she radically changed my life. I met her through her writings, her activism, and her artwork. In this book, Borderlands La Frontera, the New Mestiza Consciousness, which came out in the 1980s, pioneering a whole breadth of work in borderland theories and borderland studies, where she mixes poetry and prose and lived experiences and indigenous language and Spanish and English to create this rich mosaic of testimonial work. Gloria Anzaldua has work I keep going back to. It's a book that is always on my desk, and over the decades, I am constantly revisiting it. Thank you. So there are notes all through it. The binding is coming all undone. There are post-its, and every time that I go into it, there are new musings for me. As far as identity and the multiplicity of identities and how I intersect with them in so many ways. This is part of the curriculum that I built all the time. Even if not explicitly mentioned, it is always embedded within how I am thinking about this nonlinear, cyclical, transformative way of being in the world and embodying experiences. Right? And so one of the things that Gloria has taught me through her writings is the multiplicity of who I am. The lived experiences and the identities as places for knowledge building that are constantly in flux. They ebb and flow, they are fluid, and all of us, without exception of anyone, is constantly in this state, in and out of different realities. Crossing thresholds and crossroads, we are constantly border crossers. We are border crossers through culture, through language, through heritage. We are border crossers through our lived experiences. We are border crossers through the things that we do not know. We are border crossers every time that we're coming in conjunction with each other, these intersections of life. La rajadura, the gaps, the things that we experience that we did not expect to experience in our life. This is what her work is about. She talks about the border going beyond the line between the United States and Mexico. It is a psychological and intellectual and emotional embodiment of experiences. And so this back and forth crossing, we all experience it. In the classroom, we walk in as educators, as academics, as artists, as research, as scholars, as students, and we are co-learning in that environment. This is what Gloria facilitated for me. Her work as with transformative acts, right? These cyclical things that we experience, whether we're conscious of them or not, throughout our lives, as part of fragments and pieces to who we are through a holistic approach. She taught me in her writings and activist work how the fragments of who I am, all of the pieces, coincide and create me. And that is constantly being curated with intentionality through my choices. El mundo zurdo, the left-handed world, the world where sometimes I feel like I don't belong within the mainstream categories of society and culture, she values and gave me a voice. She gave me a place to belong. She gave a light in the dark corners of my mind, of the things that I was experiencing and thought in secret that I didn't know there was language for. She articulated that through her writings. She articulated that through her drawings and her conversations. She leaks into my studio work all the time as I'm co-creating with my daughter and putting together the fragments of our lived experiences every day as we're making painting and installation and putting them together and recreating our world constantly. the pulp of life, the pulp of pulling together and making paper, with the ridges, with the dents, with las rajaduras, the gaps and the indentations, the staining of our works. My raíces, my heritage, my ancestry, coming through in all of these different layered ways. I'm constantly suturing these pieces of myself. I'm constantly in conversation with her in my studio as I'm pulling that needle and thread and recreating everything that has been in the past, that's in the present, and that I'm envisioning going forward. There is this thing she talks about in La Rajadura, the tear, the disruptions, as opportunities for new emergent strategies in our lives. We carry those throughout. I carry it right here in my center. Just like a turtle, I'm always carrying my home with me. Thank you.